Hi everyone, welcome to your second studio for this week. Today we're going to talk about hatching in more detail. Yesterday, or I guess Monday, we covered it, but it was with just using a value scale. So today we'll be covering using hatching to create a picture. So what I chose for you today is an apple, and I want you to choose something similar. It doesn't have to be an apple, maybe another type of fruit or something with a simple shape, like a box or a ball or something that is not too complicated. So I chose an apple just to make life easier on myself today. Another thing that I want you to do before you get started is I want you to get a light source. Now this seems like not as important of a goal, but I'm telling you now that if you have a lamp handy that you can place next to your object, it's going to make it a lot easier for you to see shadows, and I'll show you what I mean. So let me take my camera off. Here is my apple that I used for the picture. Now, okay, there's my printer. You can see it in the background. I debated on doing a bowl of apples, but I ended up just sticking with one, just because this is just an exercise again. When I have you do a final drawing, I'm going to make it maybe make it a little bit more complicated, but for something where you're just getting used to a concept, it should be simple. So, okay, so there's my apple with no light source on it. I have this handy dandy lamp here that I use for drawing. So if I turn, so notice the apple without a light source, I don't see too many shadows. I don't see too many light and dark. I don't see a whole lot of contrast, and we covered contrast when we talked about the elements and principles of art. But look at if I turn on the lamp. Already I see a distinct light and a distinct dark when it comes to the apple. I see, I guess I can't really point out without changing the shadows, but I see the darkness here, I see the bright light here, and I see dark inside of by where the stem is. If you have one light source when creating your piece of art, then you'll be a lot more happy with it when we talk about value. So something I used to do in art class is I would take the lampshade off of a lamp and use that and put it really close to my object, and then kind of turn off all other unnecessary lights. So because this light is so strong, I don't really need to turn off other lights, but having one light source kind of keeps it really easy for your eye to notice the lights and the shadows. So put my camera back on my computer. Oh, alright, let's turn that off. Okay, so while I was drawing, I used that light to kind of find my contrast, find my lights, find my darks, to kind of get the value down. I used the drawing pad again, so I'll play the video and you'll be able to hear my voice over top of my drawing. I did speed it up again, so you're not sitting here forever watching the lesson. Okay, so before we start drawing, make sure you have your object. Again, something simple like a piece of fruit, or simple lines like a simple shape. I want you to get a pencil and a piece of paper from your sketchbook or from wherever. Get those three things, and then we'll start in just a minute. Alright guys, so here is the beginning of my drawing. I know it doesn't look like much now, and you guys saw the apple that I was drawing, but right now it kind of looks like a shadow of a circle, and I did that on purpose. I drew the outline, but the main point of this is not outline. When you did your contour drawing, the point was outline, but as far as hatching drawing goes, it's all about the value. So I did a very, very, very light outline, and then I kind of erased it a little bit, just so I would know where to stop making my lines, but I didn't make it like a super outliney. You don't. The more outlines you have, the more sometimes they will tend to look a little bit cartoony. So You can see I started with some light um, lines for hatching, and I found where my shadow was on the side. See how I'm making the hatching lines and I'm building up my shadow. I noticed that the darkest part is in that one corner. So you see me paying a lot of attention to that. And let me see if I can get a photo up of the apple. You can see how I'm shading the top where the stem comes out. I don't know, hatching's not my favorite. I much prefer blending, which we're not there yet, but I even like cross-hatching a little bit better than hatching, but because it's more difficult, that's why I wanted to show you guys that personally. See how I added the stem, and I noticed where the light and dark parts are of the stem, so I shaded it accordingly. The one thing I want you guys to focus on with drawing is having an artistic stroke, they call it. So I'm not going to just go ahead and make one continuous long line, because it's not really safe. If I make one continuous long line and it gets wiggly or it doesn't work out, then I kind of have wasted that effort. So an artistic stroke is when you kind of make one little line, and then when you're sure, you build on it. And you can see how I do that. I make little strokes and then they turn into bigger strokes. See me, I'm adding some sort of shadow so that it's not just an apple floating in the middle of nowhere, it's on a table. That's the principle of depth, was what we talked about last week. I messed up a little bit. You can see as I work on my drawing how I can change my mind. So right there, I thought I was going to extend it all the way, and then I kind of erased it, and I said, well, I'll see what it looks like here in a minute. There's my darkest shadow right there. So you see me paying a lot of attention to the area. Again, so one thing I really want you to not be worried about is photorealism. It doesn't have to look exactly like the apple on your table. Mine isn't perfect. It looks, I think I was pleased with the end result, but I didn't worry about every little detail to make sure that it matched up perfectly with the apple that I'm looking at. This is a drawing, so there's something to be said for your artistic license. You are allowed to add a little bit more of a shadow if you want a little bit more of a shadow. You're allowed to add an extra highlight if you want an extra highlight. It's good to use the object as kind of like a map or a guideline, but there comes a certain point when you just have to look at your picture and kind of say, you know what, I think if I added something right here, it would look better. Kind of like this. I didn't... true hatching is one direction of line. I kind of curved them a little bit to make it look more like an apple. You can do that. Part of art is being creative, and if I got upset with you for bending a little rule every now and then you wouldn't be being creative. So here I am building a little bit more of the shadow. Again, see how fast my pencil's moving. I did speed up this video, so I don't expect you to get your drawing done this quickly. We're winding down to the end. My biggest highlight was right where you see where it's really light. And then I went back with my eraser and I enhanced it a little bit, so you can do that too. you'll see sometimes I erase a little bit on the graphics pad. I'm not really used to not using a pencil and paper, so I'm adjusting. Alright, then I got the eraser. You can see how I added the highlights there and there. Like, I think I make a decision here in a second where I make a second highlight down on the down below that main one. That's by adding that highlight, I make it look like an apple. Because apples are very that you know they have the texture of where it's kind of like shiny. So if I didn't add the highlight, then it would just kind of look like a apple-shaped orb. I think I'm about to make a decision that I didn't end up sticking with. Hang on one second. You'll see it. So there I am. See how I'm just going around the edges and sort of cleaning it up? I'm making it look more together. Oh, there we go. I thought I was going to include the corner of my desk, but then I kind of didn't like it. I thought it took away from the apple, so I ended up erasing it, but just give it a second. There I am, kind of deciding. And then I kind of take it away because I don't like it. I thought you noticed the end of the desk more than you noticed the apple, which is not what we want to do. That's the principle of emphasis, which we talked about last week. So today we've talked about value, contrast, emphasis. I told you we'd end up using them. Oh, and then look, I decide I'm done, and I sign it. Because you're an artist now, and you can do that. Feel free to sign all your own work. Oh, and then after I signed it, I realized that I kind of wanted to make that shadow a little less harsh, so I added a little bit of... I made it a little bit more gradual by fading it a little bit. And then I said I'm done. Alright, there you guys have it. There is my hatching drawing of an apple. Again, more rules to remember. I went over how to submit your drawings onto Blackboard, so remember how to do that. It is due by Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. That means that I'm going to check them on Monday, and if you do not submit your 5, or I think it's 4 or 5 drawings, then you'll get an email from me. Also, yeah, I want you to pick something simple. It should be in pencil. It should be hatching, which you practiced before, and I want it by Sunday. And that's all I have to tell you. Please email me if you have any questions. All right, thanks.